to my channel. And today we are essentially going to talk about the Genius Act. Um, I'm going to run through some of the things around what we understand from the Genius Act, and we'll try to decode and we'll see from the lens of a technical person. What does the Genius Act look like? What does it mean? How does it impact some of the research that we are doing around stable coins, around real world asset tokenization, and what could be some of the potential impacts of that. So let's dive into what the Genius Act is and what does that mean for us. Now, a disclaimer that this video is for educational and information purposes only. It's not a financial or any legal advice. I'm not promoting any cryptocurrency, or I'm not promoting any act, or I am not giving any advice around that. It's mainly trying to understand what this act is about, and it's mainly purely for educational purpose. My goal here is to purely just understand from my lens what Genius Act is and how it fits into the bigger picture of stablecoins and digital money. So some interesting questions that I'm at the moment thinking around stablecoins and central bank digital currencies is that if stablecoins are now officially regulated, does that mean that the US even needs a central bank digital currency, or any country, for instance, needs a central bank digital currency? So that's an open question for us to think about. Could private stablecoins actually replace what governments are planning to build? And most importantly, who should control the digital money? Should it be the state? Should it be the innovators? A lot of research in terms of PhD and research papers have been written around this. And I'd strongly encourage you to dig that information and definitely go through it. All right. So with that disclaimer, let's dive into some of the specific sections around the bill and try to understand it for an educational purpose. What these mean. So I will go over through a few of. I'll try to cover as much as I can a few over through these sections and dive into a few, and we will look at it from an educational perspective as to what this means for us as builders and developers and co-founders, and how does that impact the larger ecosystem. So we start with the first section, which essentially has a short title and purpose, and that talks about, so I'm just going to zoom this a bit. This act may be cited as the guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins, and this is what Genius essentially means, guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins. So US and stablecoins of 2025. Everything around this is mainly a guide establishing an innovation around stablecoins, and that's what the bill essentially talks about. I would say the purpose of the Genius Act is very clear. It's to bring stability, clarity, and trust to stablecoins. It tells us who can issue them, what kind of backing they need, and how they must stay transparent. In other words, it gives stablecoins an official place, I would say, in the financial system, which is great. Now, if we look at section number 2, we look at some definitions. It talks about some definitions, and I would summarize this section in very simple words, where it basically talks about a payment stablecoin is essentially a digital token that's always worth $1, and it must be fully backed by some real asset, and like cash or some short-term treasury bill. No algorithm, no magic math, should be backed up by an asset. And you can see that the term digital asset means any digital representation of value which is recorded on a cryptographically secured distributed ledger. So I would say decoding and understanding these definitions. It's very clearly written that it's from a technical perspective. I would say every coin that's issued should have a real backing, should have some safety behind it. It should not be. It should not come out of magic. It should have some stable backing behind it. Now, if you look at section number 3, it talks about it shall be unlawful for any person other than a permitted payment stablecoin issuer to issue a payment stablecoin in the United States, right? So very clearly, it tells us that only authorized or permitted issuers can issue stablecoin. That could include banks, credit unions, licensed non-bank companies approved by regulators. It pretty much, I would say, stops the anonymous crypto projects from launching any risky stablecoins, which essentially have no oversight. So it should be regulated. It should be you need to seek proper permission, obviously, to issue them. Section 4 essentially talks about a requirement for issuing payment stablecoins, and you can see that it very clearly talks about that every stablecoin must be backed again by reserves equal to its total supply. So that's important to understand. The reserves must be safe, verified, and also independently audited on a regular basis. So these are like very clear requirements that Section 4 talks about. Every coin is fully covered by something real, right? So it talks about treasury bills, notes. It talks about repurchase agreements, it does give us a good indication of what reserve and audit rules lay behind that. So good read on this one. We'll give you some more specific information on exactly what's allowed and what's not allowed. If we go to section number 5, that talks a lot about, I would say, transparency and reporting. And section 5 does cover that the issuers, they must publish regular public reports, not private reports, for transparency, showing where their reserves are kept. So the issuer of stablecoins must very publicly, transparently inform that where the reserves are kept. And these reports go to the Treasury and are open for anyone to access. This builds, obviously, public trust and provides that each coin is really backed one-on-one. So that's good. I would say a very nice step in the right direction regarding that. If we go on to section number 6, which is supervising and enforcement with respect to subsidiaries of insured depository institutions and comptroller regulated entities. This is, I would say, a bit of was a bit of reading a couple of times to understand it, but I would say this is more of oversight and enforcement, where the US Treasury is the office of the comptroller of the currency, and the state regulators all share the oversight powers. If an issuer of stablecoins hides information or fails any audits, they can obviously lose their license or face penalties, which essentially means that stablecoins are now being watched and are serious traditional assets that will be looked at. Again, I would say a step in a good direction. If we look at section number 7, state qualified payment stablecoin issuers, it does talk a bit about stablecoins are meant to be payment tools, not essentially investments. So if you read through this, you will see that a state payment stablecoin regulator shall have supervisory examination and enforcement authority over state qualified payments stablecoin issuer of such state. To enter into agreements with the board, a state payment stablecoin regulator may enter into a memorandum of understanding with the board by mutual agreement, under which the board may carry out supervision, examination, and enforcement authority with respect to the state qualified payment stablecoin issuers of such state. Right. So, if you, it very clearly tells that this keeps them separate from securities and prevents the risk of, I would say, shadow banking through stablecoins. If we head on to section number 8, which is about customer protection, the Acts makes sure that the state and federal regulators work together in harmony, creates a single unified system instead of a messy patchwork of different rules across different states, and states can still add extra consumer protections under the law. And if you go to section 9, I would say this is more of a treatment of insolvency payments, stable issuers, something that's more, I would say, more accounting related. So I would comment less on this section. And the only thing I would say, what it means for CBDCs is that I would look at it that it doesn't anyway in this bill mention that that the CBDC anything around CBDCs, for instance, but it does definitely make stable coins, I would say, more stronger and safer. It does raise a question that if private companies can now fully issue fully backed stable coins, regulated digital dollars, is there really a need for central bank digital currency after that? So that's something to think about from as a researcher, and yeah. So yeah, that was a quick explanation of the Genius Act in plain English from an educationalist perspective. And it does give stablecoin a good legal foundation, consumer protection, and a path to scale forward responsibly, I would say. Does open a few questions around central bank digital currencies. I'd probably leave that more to the researchers in that space to see how that impacts that. And we're definitely seeing a state of I would say, a hybrid new world where traditional finance and blockchain finally meet halfway, I would say, at this point. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope that we were able to decode some of the aspects of the bill in a very simple, plain English, and what that means for the growth of stablecoins, and how does that impact central bank digital currencies. So something to explore forward. I would be watching the news carefully while CBDCs have been in active use in research, as well as in live test beds. There are still a lot of question marks around the use and benefits of CBDCs. I'm at the moment thinking, how does the stable coins impact this growth and adoption of CBDCs? So keep watching for more information. I will be trying to understand how this impacts the real world asset tokenization, in terms of the value of the tokens, the tokenomics, essentially the governance and the value of the tokens. And should real world assets be backed by a separate token, an on chain intrinsic token, or should they be backed by stable coins? So those are some of the research areas in terms of tokenomics that I'm thinking at the moment, and that's what brought me to read this bill and try to understand and comprehend from my knowledge. Less from a legal perspective and more from an educationalist perspective on what does that mean for my project and research. So with all of that and more, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.